So as you would have seen in this week's lectures, the lectures really cover a lot of material in this course quite fast. And so the point of these recitations are just to sort of give us a bit more space to digest the material. So we'll sort of gather in these small groups and sort of work together to solve problems and just learn from each other, correct misconceptions, and so forth. So what we're going to do in these classes then is sort of first review the content of the lecture, and then do a bunch of worked examples together, and then sort of solve problems on our own. First by sort of doing a bit of thinking ourselves, but then by sharing, sort of working in pairs or small groups, and then by coming together as a class and sharing any lessons and insights gained. So there's going to be a lot of collaboration, and to sort of begin sort of with one example of this process, I want to just start with an activity about setting classroom norms. So I think it's good to think about two questions. One, we're going to be doing a lot of group work, collaborative learning here. So the first question I want everyone to think about is just good or not so good experiences with group learning in the past. And then second, these experiences are good or bad for a reason, and often it's to do with how we relate to each other, how we treat each other. So the second question I want you all to think about is how we should treat each other in this room and as we learn. Okay, so I'm going to hand out some index cards, and I want you first to spend a couple of minutes just thinking about these questions on your own. You can write down some answers on these index cards, and then after that, I'll give you about 5 to 10 minutes to discuss your answers in pairs, and then we'll, again, sort of get together and share what we've been thinking about. Okay, when you're ready, if you want to turn to a partner and maybe introduce yourselves again, and then just to share what you've been thinking about. Yeah, I really like what you've been saying. Okay, right. Let's bring things back in. So now you've all sort of, I went around the room, you've been having great discussions about the sort of what you'd like to see in the class. So let's just kind of share up and put some things on the board. So does anyone have anything they want to share? I think Mo was first.
Yeah, so like we were talking about in 1801, there are a lot of times where like the group work didn't really feel fair, and there'll be a lot of situations where one person will do most of the work or like basically answer the question, and like the other people around would just get the answers and not really actually do most of the work. So if there's a way to make the work in recitation like fair or equitable, that'd be nice.
Yeah, so in this class, I'll set things up like this activity where everyone has an opportunity to sort of think by themselves about problems first, and then before starting to interact with the group. And hopefully that will ensure that everyone comes to the conversations with things to contribute. But I think most importantly is just that everyone, I mean, we're all here to learn, so everyone should take responsibility for their own learning. So maybe that's something we can write up as a classroom norm. So 1, everyone takes responsibility for own learning. Okay, I noticed your hand go up too, Sarah.
Yeah, it's actually Sarah.
Oh, sorry, yeah, thanks for the correction.
Yeah. So I actually haven't taken 1801 in a while, and I'm worried that I won't have enough to contribute in collaboration because I just don't really remember much.
Yeah, I think it's in any classroom setting, in any group setting, people come from all sorts of backgrounds, whether it be different majors or sort of different distances from any sort of foundational material. But you're all here in this class because you're all capable of taking this class. And so I think it's good to remember that everyone has something to contribute. Even even questions are very important. So asking for clarification about things you don't quite understand. Very often when you have a question, many people also have that question and just sort of waiting for an opportunity to speak up. So it can be very useful that way. But also, as we work in small groups, for me, honestly, the best way to learn is to teach. So by asking a question, asking for clarification about something, you're helping your friends and peers learn. So I think that's really important. So maybe with something like, what do you think? Everyone has something to contribute. Great. So everyone has something to contribute. Okay. How are we doing? Shelley?
I think group work is kind of useless because it seems like you only have two people who just want to show off and then people who are so afraid of seeming dumb that they don't say anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's sort of really almost natural to worry about what your peers think of you or what other people think of you, whether you look smart or so on. So I think those behaviors sort of point to the same thing, that same thing. I think it'd be good to remember in this classroom that just mistakes are an important, if not the most important part of learning. And by sort of having the courage to sort of speak up when you have a question or to be vulnerable to making mistakes, you really help sort of learn yourself and help everyone around you learn. So I'll make mistakes as we go through this course, and I think that'll just be a natural part of this class, and I hope that everyone can just see that and sort of let them be, and be sort of capable of making mistakes, or be happy to make mistakes as they go. I don't know, sorry, that was a bit long. Do you think that maybe a norm is something like mistakes are part of learning, or we should all be open in this class? What do you think? Yeah? Okay, so be open. Mistakes are part of learning. Okay. Any other things that came up? Flora? Okay, great. I think this is a really nice list, and I hope we can carry on the class in this spirit. So what I'll do is I'll type these up and put them on the course website so we can refer to them as we go forward. Okay, so now on to the math.